Welcome to the Migraine Miracle Moment. I'm your host, Dr. Josh Turknett. I'm a neurologist, migraine specialist, migraine sufferer, and author of the book, The Migraine Miracle. In this podcast, you'll learn all about how to find your path to migraine freedom without pills. Let's get started. Howdy, Bee Slayers. So, as promised, I have a big announcement for you today, which is I have written another book for you. So what is this book all about, you ask? It is all about the ketogenic diet for migraine, and it just went live on Amazon today, January 4th. The full title is Keto for Migraine, Keys to the Ketogenic Diet for Migraine Sufferers, and I will actually be playing you an excerpt from the book in the episode today, so stay tuned for that. First of all, just a few words about why I wrote this book to begin with. So a lot has changed since I first wrote The Migraine Miracle back in 2013, and I touched on keto there in that book, but at that time, virtually nobody had even heard of the ketogenic diet. And now, as I'm sure you know, keto is literally everywhere. And over the past few years, between my work with patients, along with everyone in our Migraine Miracle community, I've probably worked with more folks implementing a ketogenic diet for migraine than anyone else, and have learned so much from doing that, including the nuances of how to craft a ketogenic diet that leverages all of the beast-slaying benefits without making things worse for the migraineur. One thing that's happened over the past few years is that keto has become heavily commercialized, and commercialization is not always a friend of the truth or a positive influence. And what I found many times was that those who were adopting kind of the popular or commercialized approach to keto may not see benefits with their migraines, or in some cases would even see them get worse. And because I know how transforming a ketogenic diet can be when it's done right, I hate for people to lose out on that benefit, and I hate for people to get the wrong impression about keto. So how to craft it for the migraineur and the common mistakes that are made is one of the central topics of the book. And ultimately, I realized that migraineurs really needed their own resource for this because there was so much out there now for keto, but none of it was tailored for the specific needs of a migraine sufferer. Also, to celebrate its release, you can currently get the book on Amazon for Kindle for the intro price of $4.99. And in addition to the book, you'll also have access to a free 65-page supplemental guide that includes over 50 of our battle-tested keto recipes, a 1-month meal plan, and links to all of our favorite keto-related tools and products. And you'll find the information for the guide inside the book. The other exciting part is that this book is actually part of a series, and that series is called The Physician's Guide to Holistic Migraine Relief. One thing that you hear me talking about all the time, one thing I'm always emphasizing with the people I work with, is that success with migraines or with health more broadly is not about any one thing, but rather about the combined effects of all the things that we do. And to progress in health individually or collectively, we must embrace this particular idea. And on the flip side, we must get rid of our cultural infatuation or obsession with the idea of the silver bullet, this endless search for the one medication or the one supplement or the one thing that will deliver the results we seek. It's an approach that leaves people in an endless cycle of frustration, and in my view is the primary reason why we've made almost no meaningful progress in medical therapeutics in the last half century and in the entirety of my own career. I've come to realize that thinking and acting holistically is so critically important to achieving migraine freedom as well as lasting health, and it is an ongoing process. And if there's one single overriding message I want migraineurs to know, it's that contrary to what you were likely told at some point, there's so much we can do to protect ourselves from the beast. The old story was that migraines were in our genes, an inevitable part of our destiny, and that all we could do was really try to avoid some of our triggers and then take a handful of drugs. But that story is entirely wrong. Genes are not destiny. We do have incredible influence over our health and physiology each and every day, and migraine freedom without pills is totally possible. But it is only possible with a truly holistic approach. Not any one thing, not any silver bullet, but the combined effects of all the things. It's only when we stop trying to outsmart our body and instead provide it with what it needs to solve its own problems that we start making real and significant progress, because our body is still way smarter than we are. So anyhow, I could go on and on about this because I'm very excited, and I do talk more about what a holistic approach really means, since it's fundamental to this new series and so important to understand. And I can't wait to release the rest of the books in the series, so I got to get back to writing them. So again, the book is called Keto for Migraine. You can find it on Amazon by searching Keto for Migraine, or you can just put in my name, Josh Dirknet, and you'll find it. There is also a website for it where you can learn more, ketoformigraine.com. That's Ketofor migraine.com. And you will also find links to the book and the website in the show notes for this episode. And as I said, the Kindle edition right now is only $4.99, which also comes with the free supplemental guide. There will be a paperback version available soon, probably within the next week or so, as well as an audio version through Audible later this month. And so I will keep you posted on those details. Also, speaking of the website, I know many of you are trying to spread the word about the Migraine Miracle Plan and about the ketogenic diet to friends and family that you think it may help. And on the website at ketoformigraine.com, you'll find a compilation of research on keto that's outside of the world of migraine that may be a good place to direct friends and family to. So you'll find that linked at the top menu, or you can go to it directly, ketoformigraine.com/research. Okay, now as promised, I am going to leave you with an excerpt from Chapter 1 from the book Keto for Migraine. Chapter 1, Finding Your Path. What you'll learn in this chapter. The recent explosion in popularity of the ketogenic diet is a mixed blessing for migraineurs, as the most commonly found versions of the ketogenic diet are not tailored to the migraine brain. In this chapter, you'll learn how this book will allow you to avoid the common mistakes migraineurs make when going keto. Back in February of 2016, I wrote the following in a blog post on the Migraine Miracle website. I have a prediction. You're going to start hearing a lot more about ketones and the ketogenic diet in the next decade or two. I can say that again. While I was right that the ketogenic diet was ultimately going to explode in popularity, I was wrong in my estimate of how long that would take to happen. As I said, that was February of 2016, about 3.5 years ago. As hard as it is to believe now, at the time I wrote it, it was safe to assume that virtually nobody reading that post had ever heard the word ketogenic diet, ketosis, or keto. Amazing. To say a lot has changed since then would be the understatement of the year. And this wasn't just limited to the general public who was unfamiliar with the ketogenic diet. If I'd brought up the topic of ketosis to one of my physician colleagues, they'd more than likely have mistakenly thought I was talking about ketoacidosis. Then they would have proceeded to respond with misplaced concern about its dangers. Now that whole scenario seems quaint, though doctors unfortunately remain mostly ignorant on the subject of keto. These days, everyone is talking about the ketogenic diet. I can barely go a single day without seeing or hearing something about it. At my last visit to the grocery store, there was not one but 2 different magazine covers in the checkout aisle prominently advertising their keto articles inside. Keto sells. It even has its own language. Eating a ketogenic diet is simply known as, quote, going keto, a convenient shorthand that I'll also use throughout this book. In the 3 years since I made the aforementioned prediction, we've reached the point where if you haven't heard of keto, you risk being accused of living under a rock. Now, why was I confident enough to make such a bold prediction back then? How did I know it was only a matter of time before the ketogenic diet exploded in popularity? Number 1, because I knew what it could do. I'd witnessed firsthand the transformative impact of the ketogenic diet, and I'd experienced that transformation myself. Nothing is more convincing than results. Results speak for themselves. Furthermore, there was a growing body of research, some of which we'll touch on in this book, showing a range of impressive and wide-ranging health benefits. Benefits the likes of which we physicians have not been able to achieve with pharmaceuticals, the traditional tools of our trade. I also knew that fatphobia, that wretched mental affliction of the 20th century, was on its last legs. For decades,
the general public was wrongly advised by health authorities, myself included, to avoid dietary fat, especially the kind found in animal foods. As we'll discuss, that's an idea that can no longer be defended. And the availability of information made possible by the digital age means that the truth about it can no longer be obscured or hidden. What's so tragic is that we've known for a long time that a ketogenic diet was a powerful therapeutic weapon. The only reason it's been locked away for so long is because of our misguided and misplaced fear of fat. Now that those fears are evaporating, the floodgates have opened. The flood is now upon us, so it's time to learn how to swim. So why another keto book? Perhaps by now you've also heard that the ketogenic diet is helpful for migraines. Perhaps you've heard some of the incredible and inspiring stories I've shared on the Migraine Miracle website and Migraine Miracle Moment podcast. Stories from those who are now headache-free after decades of daily migraine, and decades of one failed treatment after another. But if keto is everywhere now, if you can't escape a trip to the grocery store without having multiple keto-related articles at your disposal, then why this book? Can't you just grab one of those keto guides in the checkout aisle, or sit down with your good friend Dr. Google, type in keto diet recipes, and get cracking? I imagine you know where this is going. Keto's insanely rapid rise to prominence is a double-edged sword. On the one hand, I'm thrilled at the insane popularity of the ketogenic diet for several reasons. For one, it means people are starting to wake up to the idea that what we eat is arguably the single most powerful tool we have over our health. That what we eat not only helps us to keep us healthy, but that it is also a powerful therapeutic weapon, vastly superior to any prescription pharmaceutical. Trust me, I know. It also means that fatphobia is finally becoming a thing of the past. As I've already discussed, were it not for the wrongful vilification of fat, especially saturated fat, ketogenic diets would have likely become a commonplace medical therapy for the past century. But the flip side of that insane popularity is that, for opportunists looking to make a quick buck, keto is a gold mine. But the darker side of that insane popularity is that, for the opportunists looking to make a quick buck, keto is a gold mine. Keto is already big business, with new keto products coming out seemingly every day. And commercialization almost always ends up obscuring the truth. We live in a strange time. On the one hand, we now have access to a ridiculous amount of information. We can carry around virtually the entire store of human knowledge on a device that fits in our pocket. Such is the glory of living in the information age. It's that very access to accurate information that's curing us of fatphobia, which paved the way for keto to spread like wildfire. Yet it would be just as accurate to say we're also living in the misinformation age. Never in history have we had to contend with so much misinformation. In the old days, when there were barriers to publishing, you could be reasonably certain that the author and editors of whatever book you read at least attempted to print what was true. Nowadays, all bets are off. By and large, those truth-preserving safeguards don't exist on the internet. On the internet, there's no such assurance that what you read is rooted in any scientific evidence whatsoever. You're left to figure that out for yourself. Worse yet, we know there are plenty of folks who make a living off publishing misinformation on the internet. Ultimately, people make money on what generates clicks, or what attracts eyeballs, regardless of whether it's accurate. And there's probably no subject where there's more misinformation than on the topic of health. As I said, I know firsthand what keto can do. I've helped thousands of migraineurs put it to use in the past few years with incredible results, and I want every migraine sufferer to have the chance to experience that. As a neurologist and migraine sufferer myself, I feel obligated to get good information on keto for my fellow migraineurs out into the world. I know how many still desperately need it. So first and foremost, I want the keto movement to continue to grow, and I want more lives to be transformed by it. That won't happen if we allow the quick buck-seeking opportunists to control the keto conversation. But the other equally, if not more important reason for writing this book is that the relationship between keto and migraines is a unique one. One thing I've learned over the past several years, working with thousands of migraine sufferers going keto, is that all ketogenic diets are not created equal. This isn't just a general book about keto. Instead, it's a book written specifically for the migraine sufferer who's decided to go keto. As we'll discuss in this book, there is no single ketogenic diet. While it's true that the body can only make ketones under certain conditions, it's also true that there are an endless number of ways you could eat to make that happen. The presence of ketones in the brain seems to do great things for a migraineur. However, that's not the only thing changing when you start eating a ketogenic diet. Far from it. And when adopting a ketogenic diet, we must be mindful of all the factors that matter to the migraineur. Without being mindful of those factors, it's entirely possible to eat a version of the ketogenic diet that makes migraines worse. And getting worse is not an uncommon outcome in those who head to the wild west of the web to plot their keto course. I've seen this story play out so many times now, with increasing frequency as keto continues to grow in popularity. A migraineur hears that keto can be helpful, decides to take the plunge, collecting all manner of keto resources from the internet and beyond. And then he or she is defeated when it doesn't help, or makes their migraines worse. Meanwhile, in helping thousands of migraineurs implement the ketogenic diet, we've learned a lot about the factors that determine success or failure. So it became increasingly clear that, in light of the burgeoning keto craze, this information needed to get out. Migraineurs needed their own guide to keto to help them avoid all the common pitfalls and maximize their chances of success. Suffice it to say that there are many things that matter a lot to the migraineur that your average person doing keto, usually to help them lose weight, doesn't need to worry about. The objective isn't merely to stimulate nutritional ketosis, but to do so in a way that's a net benefit to our health and our heads. And I imagine there are two kinds of people who will benefit from what's included in these pages. The first kind are those of you who are using keto as a beast-slaying weapon. You've been inspired by the incredible results others have had using it, and you'd like to experience that for yourself. So the last thing I want is for you to go down this road, to commit to the effort it takes to go keto, only for it to either have no impact on your migraines, or, even worse, make the beast stronger. As I said, there are a limitless number of paths to ketosis. If that's why you're here, then I want to help ensure that the path you take enables you to make the most of all the beast-slaying benefits. And I certainly don't want you heading down any of the roads that lead straight to the beast's lair. We've learned so much about keto and migraines these past few years. Much of what we learned has come from us making our fair share of mistakes. Mistakes that you now won't be making. So, if you're reading this book because you want to harness the beast-slaying benefits of a ketogenic diet, then this book is definitely for you. On the other hand, maybe you're here for additional reasons. Maybe you've heard others raving about how much better they feel overall since going keto. You've heard them rave about how much more energy they have, or how much more clearly they can think, and you want to know what all the fuss is about. Or maybe you've been told your blood sugar is trending towards the diabetic range, and you want to reverse that trend, like so many now have done. Or maybe you want to use it to shed some unwanted body fat. Its success as a weight loss tool is the main reason why keto has become so insanely popular. Or maybe you have a family history of Alzheimer's or Parkinson's and have heard about its great promise in both preventing and treating those conditions. The point is that there are many reasons beyond migraine protection for dipping a toe in keto. Personally, I think that cycling in and out of nutritional ketosis should be considered a foundational part of a healthy lifestyle. It's something that I recommend to friends and family, regardless of whether they have migraines or any other conditions that nutritional ketosis has been shown to help. The most significant benefits of the ketogenic diet may lie in the chronic diseases it can help us prevent, giving us the best chance of a long life well lived. But if you suffer from migraines, you surely don't want to go keto if it's going to make your migraines worse. On the contrary, you just assume reap all those other benefits and have fewer visits from the beast while you're at it. Win-win. If so, this book is for you too. Second timer? I imagine there are some of you reading this who've done keto before. Maybe you had some success, maybe not. And maybe in light of that, you're a little bit apprehensive about trying it again, wondering if this time will be any different. I get it. There are at least a couple of good reasons to give it another go. First and foremost, as I've already discussed, is the fact that not all keto is created equal. Some ways of doing keto can help migraines, some can hurt. The way I see most people doing keto these days is not something I'd recommend for migraineurs, given that it's more likely to make them worse than better. And of course, we'll talk about why that is, and what a migraineur-friendly version of keto looks like. The second reason is that timing matters. One of the most important lessons I've learned in the past several years is that the road to recovery on the Migraine Miracle Plan is a progression. Things we do impact us differently depending on where we are along that progression, a topic we'll discuss in more depth. We naturally think of ourselves as the same person from day to day. It seems that way to us. But the reality is much different. The reality is we are literally always changing. You are not the same biological being from one day to the next. You aren't even the same entity from 1 minute to the next. Your skin cells last about 20 days on average. The cells that line your small intestine last about 3. You are physically rebuilding yourself each and every day. You are switching on and switching off different genes all the time. With this state of constant change comes great opportunity, as we can profoundly shape these changes by the life we lead. Change is the only constant when it comes to the human body, which explains why something that may have not had much impact today can have a radically different impact tomorrow. That includes the impact of keto. A request. The man who tries methods, ignoring principles, is sure to have trouble. Harrington Emerson. I would strongly encourage you to read this book in its entirety. I've purposefully distilled the topic down to the essentials to help ensure that you do so. Resist the temptation to jump straight to the chapter on how to go keto. After all, I could have just published a book of keto recipes and called it a day. Why didn't I? I could give a multitude of reasons, but it ultimately boils down to the fact that I want you to succeed. I want to give you the greatest chance of slaying the beast once and for all. And, having worked with thousands of migraineurs over the years, I've come to understand the recipe for success. Just knowing the rules isn't part of that recipe. That recipe includes not only an understanding of what to do, but why you're doing it. Many people come just wanting to know the rules. Just tell me what to eat. Just give me a list of foods. I understand where this comes from. It seems like that should be all you'd need. Yet every time I begrudgingly complied with that request, I regretted it later. Because those I did this for didn't end up succeeding, as I feared. And the whole point of the work I do in writing this book and in working with patients is to give you the best chance of success. I don't want you just to know the rules. I want you to understand the reasons behind them. I want you to understand the underlying principles. While rules are circumstantial and situational, principles are not. I can't cover every possible scenario or situation you may encounter. If you only have a set of rules, you'll have no way to decide for yourself how to handle those situations when they arise. If all you have is a set of specific rules to follow, you are dependent, at the mercy of whoever is writing those rules. If you understand the fundamental principles, then you are in charge. You are empowered. You have the knowledge you need to be successful no matter what life throws your way. My work isn't done until I've made myself obsolete. Keys from Chapter 1. Number 1. The ketogenic diet has recently exploded in popularity because of the eradication of fatphobia, and because it works incredibly well. Number 2. The ketogenic diet can do great things for the brain, including the brains of migraine sufferers. Yet, not all ketogenic diets are created equal, so we want to ensure that we adopt a version that helps, not hurts. Number 3. This book will review all that we've learned over the past several years in helping thousands of migraineurs around the world implement a version that helps. Number 4. Understanding the principles behind the Keto for Migraine plan, which are described in this book, is essential for your success. All right, that concludes the excerpt. Again, the book is Keto for Migraine, now available on Amazon and part of the new Physician's Guide for Holistic Migraine Relief series, and the website ketoformigraine.com. Okay, that is it for this episode. Now it is time to go out and slay the beast.